Okay, how many pairs of shoes does a typical teenage boy own? To find out, two AP statistics students surveyed a random sample of 20 male students from their large high school. Then, they recorded the number of pairs of shoes that each boy owned. Here is a dot plot of the data. So part A, they ask us to find the percentile for Jackson, who reported owning 22 pairs of shoes. So now the first thing I would do is I would locate where the 22 pairs of shoes are. So that's right here, okay? Now the second thing is to identify how to get what they want. So they want the percentile. Well, how should I get my percentile? Well, I got my percentile using cumulative relative frequency, okay? So what that means is you take the point of interest, which is 22, right? In the context, 22 pairs of shoes, and you count all the values that are less than and equal to that point of interest. So 22. So when you count all of these values individually, including this one, you're going to end up with 18 out of 20. Now, what does this mean? It means that 18 students out of 20, right, own less than or equal to 22 pairs of shoes. Now, if you want the percentage, which is the percentile, we want to multiply that by 100. And that's going to give us 90%. So what does this mean? It means that 18 students are at the 90th percentile. Okay? So 18 students are at the 90th percentile. This is the keyword, at. Always say at, okay? So this also means that 18 students, again, own less than or equal to 22 pairs of shoes. So we're also going to write that. So 18 students own less than or equal to 22 pairs of shoes. Okay? Now let's move on to part B. So Raul's reported number of pairs of shoes is at the 45th percentile of the distribution. Interpret this value. How many pairs of shoes does Raul own? Okay, so how do we interpret this value? Well, we're going to say, okay, well, at, right, the 45th percentile, there are blank students. So we can say, okay, we can also say Raul is at the 45th percentile, but we knew that already. But what we really want to know is how many shoes does Raul own, and how can we get that from knowing the percentile? Well, the way we do this is we always want to go back to the sentence, at blank students are at the 90th percentile, or at the not the 90th percentile, but blank percentile. So at the blank percentile, in this case 45, there are blank students. So the way we figure this out is we can work from this equation right here. So we can say, okay, well, the amount of students we don't know yet, so that's going to be x. We know the total amount of students, which is 20. And then the percent they give us is 45, so we're going to write that as a fraction. So 45 over 100. Now we're going to do some cross multiplication, 900, and end up with 9. So what does this value mean? This means that 9 out of 20 students are at the 45th percentile. Okay, so this means that 9 out of the 20 students are at the 45th percentile, okay? So there are 9 students. Now, how can we use this data, this information, to find how many pairs of shoes does Raul own? Well, if we count all the way up to 9, that's going to be our 45th percentile. And we know that Raul is at the 45th percentile. So we're going to go back to our dot plot and we're going to count all the way up to 9 students. Ready? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So we know that right here, this makes up our 45th percentile. And we know that we can say this is about 6, this is about 7. So we can say that Raul owns 7 pairs of shoes. Okay? So Raul owns 7 pairs of shoes. And that is how we solve this problem.